Well, our president still won't even say the words radical Islam and wants the killer's references to Islam deleted from the calls. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is considering a plan to profile Muslims inside the United States of America. Here he is over the weekend.
We really have to look at profiling. We have to look at it seriously. And other countries do it, and it's not the worst thing to do. I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to use common sense. We're not using common sense.
All right, joining me right now for their perspective on that, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and former Bush speechwriter Ned Ryan. Ned, starting with you, Trump's taking a lot of heat for this. Do you think he's going too far? Or is he just saying what those in the intel community perhaps already know, that you need to focus on the people most likely to commit these crimes, and they're not necessarily Irish Catholics?
Exactly. And I think there was a very interesting piece in Reuters today, and the Israeli Minister of Transportation and Intelligence had some really interesting quotes. Of course, Israel's been doing an excellent job of profiling. So is France or other European countries considering profiling. But the Israeli minister said something very interesting towards the end of that piece, in which he basically said the American law enforcement community is essentially, using different terms, profiling already, acting on leads, identifying potentials, and then acting to make sure that they prevent any...
But they're not supposed to, right? I mean, the president has made that clear. He's said, taking it right out of the manuals. The FBI is not supposed to profile based on someone's religion.
I would encourage those that are watching to read the Reuters piece today, and especially those last few quotes by the Israeli minister.
In other words, they're doing it anyway, but they're saying they're not.
Exactly. Well, they're doing it anyway. They're doing it by different terms, but in essence, they are identifying where they think potential threats are coming from. And again, like you said, Trish, Irish Catholics don't seem to be the ones causing this sort of terror in recent times.
Yeah,
we can identify where they're coming from.
And let me go to Leslie on this, because, we are a nation that was founded on the freedom of religion. I mean, it's part of who we are, right? So this is where it starts to get very sticky, because you wonder, at some point, when this crosses over into extremism, radicalism, it's no longer a religion, it's a political ideology, and people have made this point over and over again, more similar to communism, a threat that we faced. But nonetheless, within the disguise, shall we say, of a religion. So, Leslie, how do we negotiate this rather treacherous path?
Well, first of all, I would agree that there is racial profiling going on. I think a lot of folks at Fox know Marshall's not my real last name, and my married name is a Muslim Arabic name. My husband is not Muslim, but he was raised in a Muslim home, American-born, prominent surgeon. And I can tell you, Trish, 99% of the time my husband and I travel on a plane, when they look at our ID or passport, we are profiled. However, I have to say that my husband and I also know why we're being profiled, but it's not just about
problem with that?
Community.
Let me ask you, knowing what you know, knowing the dangerous world in which we live, do you have a fundamental problem with somebody looking at you twice because of your husband's last name?
I have a problem when it's only because of that, or only me, when we're not on any watch list. I understand and certainly want to be safe on the plane myself, along with my husband and my children, and I want others to be safe. But the majority of people who have such a last name, like my husband and I, are law-abiding citizens who contribute to our nation. We're born here, love our nation, and love the freedoms, including that First Amendment freedom of religion
So you
of
think
our
that
nation.
You cannot, should not be targeting anybody or scrutinizing anybody with a last name that seems to suggest they practice Islam?
Well, first of all, if we're only looking at people with a Muslim last name, and we're only looking at terrorist attacks, when we have had so many people die at the hands of people who I think terrorized people, whether it's in a church in Charleston, South Carolina, whether it's in a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, or various college campuses.
That's fair, but that's another conversation. I mean, we're talking about fighting ISIS here. And what I'm trying to figure out from you is, are you okay with someone looking at you twice when you get on the plane because of your husband's last name? And if not, how do we protect ourselves while still, being true to our identity of who we are as Americans, which includes the freedom of religion?
Well, talking to experts on counterterrorism and fighting ISIS, they have said that some of these efforts, quite frankly, are time wasters. We need to be more specific. For example, if you look at somebody with a last name or somebody who is dressed a certain way, say a woman's wearing a headscarf, and that's just a mass sweeping generalization of individuals, we're not targeting people that could become radicalized. I think everyone in this nation, regardless of their ideology or religion, wants this prevented and stopped. And I'm just not sure the way that we're being profiled, even though they don't admit it currently, is effective, obviously.
Ned, let's get you in here, and then I got to move on to another story, but your thoughts?
I was going to say, listen, we know the recent profiles of those that have committed terror, usually in the 20 to 30 age demographic, Muslim male. So, you know, I think we can kind of narrow.
Too. Don't forget San Bernardino.
And women, but let's narrow it down to that and start there. But, you know, I think politically, you know, political correctness is a luxury that we have in a time of peace.
No, but it's not just political correctness. I mean, this is the debate, right? Because it's freedom of religion. And you're talking about a religion that has been manipulated in such a way that it's become a political ideology. But this is why it's a conflict. But
at some point we have to say, at what point does the line get crossed where it goes from freedom of religion into hate speech that is encouraging violence and murder and terror? Yeah. And I think this is where we have to say we're going to use common sense. And this political correctness, again, it's a luxury in a time of peace. We are in a clash of worldviews right now.
Yeah,
and it's a worldview.
We're certainly not in a peacetime situation. Thank you very much,
Exactly.
Ned. Leslie, I'm going to see you guys in a little bit.